You are listening to Essence, a podcast about story, journey, and self. Hello, you are listening to Essence, a podcast about journey, story, and self, and this is episode 3. Episode 3 already, I can't believe it. Today's guest is my good friend Tracy Kelly. I actually did this interview with her about 6 weeks ago now, and we were waiting to put it out there at time with the release of her book that we'll be talking about today. The book is Healthy Reminders, Simple Strategies to Help Manage Your Emotions, Challenge Your Thoughts, and Create Balance in Your Life, from someone who's been there. Tracy is an amazing individual. I've been friends with her now for about 6 years. She was part of a spiritual group that I was involved with. We've done quite a bit of spiritual work together. And what has always struck me about her is her ability to go into vulnerable places. She has done a great deal of sharing over these past few years with me, and I was very, very fortunate to have her on the show today to talk about her book. Her book, as I said, is just about, well, it has been released, I should say, and if you look in the show notes down below, you will find information about how to order it. I will also place some information about it on and some pictures onto my Facebook page. It's a wonderful little handbook. It's literally daily reminders that you can open up at any point and almost like bibliomancy, have a little reminder, a little affirmation, or a little exercise that you can utilize for that day. It's a stunningly beautiful book. I have it with me right now. When I did this interview, though, I didn't have it with me, so it was a little unfortunate. But Tracy really does go into detail about what it is, and we talk about her process. We talk a little bit about her, and we kind of get behind the scenes of the book. So, as always, if you enjoy this interview, please hit subscribe down below, and do check Tracy's links down below as well. And let's get right into the interview. Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome Tracy Kelly, a very good personal friend of mine, to the show. Tracy, welcome. Tracy is one half of the Green Man and the Goddess, Empathic Artists in Love, located in London, Ontario, with her partner Gomer, who I also love. Tracy, let's start off first a little bit about telling us a little bit about yourself.
That's a long story, Ben. So I am trained as a graphic artist, currently on disability with both anxiety, depression, chronic pain. And I've been dealing with that probably 25 plus years. So I've worked as a graphic artist, but in the last years, I kind of have shifted it to doing stuff from home, doing my own personal things, posting online, staying creative, and writing, and kind of sharing inspiration as I can, in the hopes of inspiring others.
And that intention of sharing inspiration to others has led you in many different directions. If I may share how we met, Tracy and I met at a campground up north 5 years ago now, almost 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Coming up to almost 6 years ago.
2016.
Yeah. And I feel like we were both in places of needing healing in our lives. And we went through an amazing spiritual experience together, became very good friends alongside a small community of us. And that healing process for you has led you to write a book. Tell me a little bit about the book. The book is Healthy Reminders.
Healthy Reminders? Yeah, I'll show you a picture. Mm-hmm. So Healthy Reminders came about because I've learned so many different techniques over the years to manage anxiety, depression, chronic pain, from seeing a pain psychologist, looking into spirituality, medicine, nutrition, all these different facets. And so I've learned a lot over the years, but they were always in all of these different places. So I had a binder of thoughts and poems that inspired me. I had little homework cards from my counselor that would have little nuggets of wisdom. So they were all like scattered. And when I wanted them, like I couldn't remember them. So I had this dream to have them all in one place, to create my own little reference manual that I could go to when it's like, oh, okay, like this is what's happening. What do I need to know about this? What have I learned over the years? And so really in the last 2 years, the longing was there, but I didn't know how to put it together.
Right.
Yeah. So I started off many different paths, and I'd get to a point, it's like, no, that's not quite it. And I'd start again, and it's like, no, that's not quite it. And then last year, of course, COVID hit, and I had to pull out all of the tools and strategies to deal with what was going on. And so I took all of my design skills and created a discipline for myself where every day I would take one of my tools and I'd make it into a meme and I'd post it. And it kept me focused. It kept me focused on what I needed to remember. And then the more that I worked on them, the more I'm like, oh, okay, like this it started unfolding. This is how they want to present themselves. And so the more that I worked with it, the more it's like, oh, okay, this is how the book needs to go. And so it just started flowing from there. So I spent the year immersed in all of the wisdom of what I'd learned, and as a result, I was able to get through it, to manage pretty well.
That process of at first tending to your own needs and then seeing, hey, this can be really applicable to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the reason for wanting to do the book too is I have close family, I have friends that struggle with mental health, like either young or older, and they don't know what to do. And some may be resistant to talk therapy, and and it's like I just have this vast resource in my brain that it's like, okay, this not only would help me, but it could potentially help other people too.
By drawing on so many of the things that you love, absolutely. Now, I'm going to challenge you on that. This isn't something that just kind of came out in the past couple of years for you. You
Yeah.
developed an oracle deck a few years ago
Oh,
around similar themes, didn't you?
yeah, very much. It's always been about that for me.
Yeah.
Um, even going back to 2008, I took a, I guess you'd call it a personal sabbatical, a pilgrimage for self-healing. And, I found hearts everywhere, and it gave me the lesson of following my heart. And so all of those heart photos I took and I put into a book with a poem of all of those lessons. And then from there, it went to creating other posters that were inspiring words with photographs. And then I'm a big fan of, divination cards. And so it's like, like I really want to do that. And so I took I took 44 photos, and it's quite fascinating because that when I did that, I sat down, I created my file, I had all the photos, but it was almost like this download where it's just like, okay, what does each card need to say for the booklet? And within a day, it's like, okay, they all came. And so it's always been for me the words of wellness and the images of beauty.
Yes, yes. And that translates very much into the book right now. You were showing me it before. Each
Yeah.
page has words of wellness and an image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really important to me because for me, my photography is all about the energy of nature. It's an intentional act of trying to capture that energy in nature. And because nature is so healing to me and to others, it was really important that that was a part of the message.
Mm.
It's this almost subconscious intake.
Yes.
It's a calming. It's it's a very visceral thing.
Mm-hmm. When you say it's a very visceral thing, is there a particular part of you that responds to that nature? And
Oh,
I'm going off on a tangent here, but I'm curious now. Is there a particular part of your body that resonates with that?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't get out enough in nature, but when I do, it is transcendent.
Yes. Yeah.
Just transcendent. When was that? A few weeks back, there was a beautiful snow
Mm-hmm.
pull, this like intense pull. It's like you need to go to the woods.
Yeah.
And I went to the woods, and I had my camera out, and I'm just standing there going, wow, like the joy, the peace, the awe, the wonder
Mm-hmm.
of it all. Like it transcends everything, and it's so healing.
It's a beautiful experience. I feel like people have both developed over the past year and a half since COVID. People have responded either by staying inside or really yearning to go out to those empty spaces that they had never gone before and finding that magic. I've heard from other people. Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be anything grand. It can be going for a walk around the block, and really being present to what you're seeing. I can go for a walk around the neighborhood in the morning and see the leaves or a leaf falling on the sidewalk with dewdrops on it and just go gaga, over the beauty.
And being in the moment with that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really important with everything that I create.
Mm-hmm.
It's that synergy of it all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what struck me as you were showing me some of the pages of the book, you were pairing words of wisdom and exercises with particular images. This is a big question again.
Yeah.
Is there any part of the book that is particularly your favorite? And can you speak a little bit about that? Is there any image that kind of immediately pops out?
Oh gosh. Tough question, Ben. Let me look.
Bibliomancy here.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Crack it open. Mirror. The lesson of mirror.
Mm.
So that one, here, I'll hold it up. Can you see that?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. That's Ireland?
That's Scotland.
Oh,
That's
Scotland.
northern Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because when I was selecting, it was what image has the right not only feel but connection to the word. So it might not even be the title, but it might be something in the writing that is like, okay, this illustrates, that's the word, it illustrates it.
Illustrates it, yeah.
Yeah.
Illustrates it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny you say that. Something that musicians often talk about, and it sounds like something similar here. Musicians often talk about when they're in a chorus, there's always a fifth element. So if there's like four people singing, they're always in that music becomes almost like a fifth element. There's almost a fifth person with them because the harmonies all come together, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to gain that if you didn't come together as voices. And it sounds like a very similar process. There's like a synergy, almost like a fifth element there.
Absolutely. It was a very intentional element that I wanted to the book to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because, words alone, on a white page, you might take it in, right? And it might have an effect. Or you might look at photographs,
Yes.
and that might have an effect. But when you put them all together, there is an indescribable something.
Yes.
And it was interesting because I had put all of the photos in, and then I went back, and of course the graphic designer person went, okay, you better check copyright, not only with words, but with photos and some of the places, because some of them were at sites overseas. And it's like, oh, so I'd go back and it's like, oh man, like it doesn't illustrate it the way that I wanted it to. So for instance, stories. I had this beautiful picture of a bookshelf from Trinity College, Trinity Library.
Dublin.
And it was just like, oh, that's perfect. But I couldn't use it because of getting into the copyright thing with that.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And as a creator, that brand new, obviously very important copyright. But as I almost got a sense of a visceral response to that. Oh,
yeah,
use this.
Oh, it was devastating because there were so many pictures that I realized it's like, oh, I can't use that. Oh, I can't use that. It was just like heartbreaking because it just they so well illustrated the message. Yeah.
And that really gets to another point about your book as well, is that sometimes you were talking about creating the memes and the synergy, and almost like a download with some of your other work of how it there's something about the brain that responds so well to image and geography and place. One of the things I've been really heavily working with the past few months is and I'll send you the details afterwards because I think you'd appreciate it. And for my listeners, they would already know that I am a big fan of Dr. Lynn Kelly, who is an anthropologist from Australia. And she talks a great deal about the intersection of memory and wisdom and knowledge. And she talks about in her book how when you look at pilgrimage tracks and ancient sites, and she works a great deal with the Aboriginal people of Australia, various different groups down there around songlines, and how information is encoded in the landscape and is accessible through the process of the memory of Loki, the Mind Palace. So when Aboriginal elders are traversing the landscape, they can go and almost take in the information that has been deposited in certain spaces. And when that information is divorced from those sites and from those vistas and those images, it is much more difficult to access.
Oh, I can relate to it and feel it because I've been to Stonehenge, I've been to Avebury, I've been to British Well in Ireland. Like I've been to so many different sacred sites, and you do. There is an experience that happens at those where you are not only feeling and seeing, but you can access. There's that feeling like you're accessing ancient wisdom. Yeah, and so that's what I love about traveling to those places, and I seek them out because there is such a deep resonance when you're there.
And that speaks really a great deal to what you were saying about the images in your book too. The intersection between the information, the words on the page, and then just seeing and grounding and going in almost on a mental journey into that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's the same with the book, the same with the cards. You are, excuse me. And even if it is just a leaf on a sidewalk, like I mentioned.
Yes.
there's a feeling that comes from that your body innately goes, I recognize this.
Yes.
I recognize this as a feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So would you say that your book then it isn't about accessing assistance and help and exercises from the exterior. It's really reawakening our inner.
Absolutely. It's all about accessing what's inside.
Accessing what's inside.
Yeah. It's tuning into your own innate wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, all of the reminders in the book can help with that, but the biggest tool that has helped me has been awareness. Becoming aware of what I'm feeling, becoming aware of my motivations, becoming aware of my shadows and challenges, and being courageous enough to face them.
Right. And in a way, you really start the book off with that awareness. You start the book off with a letter to your younger self.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you to write that? First of all, when did you write that? Did you write that at the end of kind of compiling the book, or at the very...
That was the first thing.
The very first thing? I love it.
Very first thing. Yeah. It was almost like, excuse me, it was almost like the mission statement. It was like, why am I doing this? It's that little girl who wanted help, who recognized she had a mind that was a little bit different, and felt like nobody understood.
Yeah.
And wanted something like this. You know, that she could pick up and go, oh, that's why I'm feeling that way. Yeah. You know, and even if there weren't any friends or family or therapists or whatever, she could go, okay, well, this is at least a start. Right. And so writing it, there were a lot of tears, very cathartic. Yeah, but it was like, okay, what would I tell her?
May I ask, would you share it with us? Do you feel comfortable if I ask you that?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a natural extension of my question from before. You have to share it now. You've spoken about the catharsis.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Dear younger self, I wish that I could wrap you in my arms and let you know that everything will be okay. I know you're sensitive and scared and think and feel too much. I know you feel alone, like nobody gets you, not even the ones who are supposed to. I know your journey will be difficult, living with a mind and heart that are different from the norm. I wish I had someone like me to guide me through all the years of heartache, anxiety, depression, and pain. Someone to let me know that it's okay to feel as intensely as I do. So I offer you this gift. I offer you the wisdom that I have learned over my lifetime of riding the roller coaster of highs and lows. I offer you open arms of compassion and understanding, and the promise that you too can find your way. Maybe my journey of searching for emotional balance will make it just a little bit easier for you. With all my heart, older self.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thanks, Ben.
That's beautiful. So then, if I may ask, writing that at the start of this project, what would you say to yourself from a year ago starting this project, writing that poem? Is there anything you'd want to share with that younger self, having gone through that process?
Of writing the book? It was all worth it. I mean, as hard and painful and scary and terrifying and depressing and as everything was, as low as I have gone over the years. Reliving it all through writing it showed me how resilient I am, showed me how strong I am, how brave I am, showed me how every single event and experience and person taught me lessons and strategies and skills that I needed to learn.
Mhm.
And as much as I would have wanted to wish them all away, they've made me who I am. Light and dark.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It
Did
can
that
be.
answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does definitely. At least I think so. What struck me about what you just said was how it was a process of really going into those dark spaces,
Oh
but
yeah.
almost like a faith of knowing that you'll come out the other side.
Yeah. And I have done exercises in recent years past where I've done that, where there has been a deep hurt, and I've gone through and I've written the story, and I'll be sitting at my laptop, like just bawling, tears like streaming down my face as my fingers are typing. So that kind of helped me in the experience of writing this as well.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people a lot, like, don't be afraid to go into your darkness. I think that holds so many people back,
Yes.
and the darkness is where you transform,
Mm-hmm.
where you lose the shame, you lose the stigma, but you gain all of those wonderful things of strength and information and knowledge. And yeah, as painful as it is, as painful as that process can be, there is a light at the end of it. Like the relief that I felt in writing out some of these stories,
Mm.
I was able to heal my relationship with my mom before she passed. And it wasn't anything that I said to her. It was a transformation in myself. It was writing out our story and going, oh, okay, I understand now. I understand where I was coming from. I understand where she was coming from. I understand why I felt hurt, and betrayed, and what was mine,
Right. Right.
and what I was holding on to. And through that process of going into that, I was able to release it
Yeah.
and enjoy those last, year, months, whatever, with a clear heart.
Yeah. You could say that it was a healthy reminder from your higher self.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's so beautiful.
And excellent advice from a friend. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's powerful. That's really powerful. I'm struck with, and I really want to honor that. I'm struck with the power that has come out of that. And I know, I mean, just knowing you, I know that that will very much come through in the book, even if the exercises are to assist somebody in their process. To have that energy bound into that book, literally bound into it.
Yeah. And I mean, some of this, like the way the book was written, it's meant to be brief.
Yes.
When I had started thinking about writing it, it was like telling all the stories, but then it was like, no, this isn't about me.
Yeah.
This is about the lessons.
Yes.
And so I wanted to include so many lessons that each one is a page.
Mm.
So there's so much more in depth that you could go with each topic, but it was just a reminder to go, okay, maybe look at this, and then if it's resonating, go deeper with it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Bite-sized chunks. Yeah.
Bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because especially when you're in a heightened state, when you're feeling super panicked, anxious, depressed, you can't take much in.
No.
You're just not able.
No. And I mean to extend that as well, it really depends on like where you're at in your life too, maturity wise. I think back to, as you were reading your letter to your younger self, I was reflecting on my own younger self and how at times in my life I've been like the maturity was not there. And
Yeah.
so lessons that were, being flung my way by spirit or the universe, however you want to put it, were not landing because I was not able to see them. And
Yeah.
so in many ways, it goes back to that point about images and pictures, how when you have a connection to a place or you see an image, you're going to come back to see that image in a different light later on in different periods of your life.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. We become clouded by shame. We become the visor of depression, the visor of distortion comes up, and we're not able to necessarily see those lessons.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get it right off the first time.
No.
It takes repeated experiences for you to learn.
Mm.
And I mean, I still come back around, like even writing the book, and now that it's, printed and bound, it's like, oh man, like, yeah, I could add that.
Oh,
I've
it's
already
equal.
started ideas for
I love it.
the 10-year version. There'll be an update of like, there's all the other strategies that I've learned since.
With commentary. So would you say that your book is one that people can come back to again and again and
Oh,
still gain something out of? Yes.
I sure hope so. I made it small, like it's 5.5 by 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you could carry that if you're a woman and you carry a big purse. I mean, you could carry that in your purse, right? The point is, it's a reference book.
Yes.
It's a working book.
Yes. Yes.
So, like to keep it handy, to keep it available, to keep coming back to it. It's definitely not a read once and put it on a bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
It's use it daily,
Mm-hmm.
if need be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whether it's sitting on your coffee table and you just crack it open one day to see what message you need.
Right.
Or,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Or, read it cover to cover and then come back to it as needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, and I'm thinking about some of the other books in my life that are like that, and for example, Gibran Khalil's The Prophet. Keep coming back to that all the time, right?
I love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. But it sounds like this is going to be it is very accessible for anybody. Anybody can just open it up and read a page, and that might be all they need that day.
Absolutely. And, I was, excuse me, I was thinking about high school students. I was thinking about college students. I was thinking about, people, into their elder years.
Mm-hmm.
It really is for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly feel that some people will maybe resonate with it a little bit more than others,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a holistic approach. And because it's not, I'm a doctor and this is the science. I'm a person who has lived this my whole life.
Nice.
These are the things I've learned from those people and from experiences. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's an organic process. Then it's a very organic book.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So one of the final questions, what did you learn about yourself? You spoke a little bit about this throughout the interview. Is there one major thing that you've learned about yourself through this process of writing this book?
Patience.
Patience.
Patience. Yeah, letting it unfold as it wanted to.
Right.
Absolutely. Because I'm, that driven graphic designer, have the idea, execute. And this was a completely different process of allowance.
Right.
It was just, from the timing of when it wanted to be birthed, and written to, the messages, like there are days that I would write the beginning and then I couldn't write other parts, and really just honoring that versus above when I wanted it to be done by. Yeah. And just letting allowing it to be and being okay with that.
That sent shivers up my spine just then. There's as you know, I'm a writer as well. I'm currently working on something myself, and I feel there is that process. It is almost like giving birth to a child. You have to be able to, as a writer, to be able to take your hands off of it eventually and allow it to evolve and adapt and grow to what it needs to be, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And as someone who has had issues with control, because of anxiety and whatnot, that was difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it wasn't working before, was because I was trying to force it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I allowed myself to be, and then allowed it to be what it wanted to be, then that's when it started flowing.
Right. And it sounds like, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And even the printing process.
Oh yeah.
As well, when it was time to send it off, when it was like the whole process, is it time to send it now? Yes. Okay. Like, is it time to put it out in the world? Okay. Not yet, maybe. Yeah. But just being okay with that, like taking the Tracy force off, and just the book's force on, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Very much so. And building that relationship with yourself as well through that process of relationship with the work, perhaps gaining trust in yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yes. One of the biggest lessons, and it's interesting because at the back of the book, there's a section on specific feelings and emotions. And I've been working with my counselor as I've been doing this book. And one of the biggest things that's come out is confidence and insecurity. And I never really understood my insecurity, and my limitations on myself, as much as I have with this book.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that ended up being 2 full pages. Just because I'm listening to my counselor, I'm like, oh yeah.
But that speaks to, I think, something that a lot of people deal with in some form in their life. I can certainly resonate with that with myself. That issue of trusting oneself is really tied to shame, is really tied to that darkness, is really tied to that shadow. And that's also, ironically, what keeps us from going into that shadow to reclaim that trust, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So final question then, how do people get this book? I'm like struck by this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. How can people get the book?
Well, right now it's available on my website. So it's tracykelly.ca. Tracy with no E.
And I'll add this to the
yeah. So right now it's available on my website. I will probably be putting it on Etsy and looking for other homes for it. So.
And if people want to learn more about you, or do you offer any one-on-one work? Do you offer any workshops? Do you offer any alternative stuff?
I am certainly open to it. Okay. I realize with writing this, people are going to have more questions, and that might come up. I'm absolutely open to that. Yeah, I don't know what form that's going to take. Obviously, it's just been the process of getting the book done, but yeah, who knows where it will lead.
It's an organic process, right? You have to let it be what it has to be.
yeah, I'm just trying to stay in that space of allowance. Yeah, I certainly know that I would love to talk one on one with people about it. And whether it's mentorship or what. Um, yeah, I'd love that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us. I'm looking very much forward to getting my hands on this book, and seeing what insights I can glean for my own life from it. Tracy, thank you so much. Lovely to see you. You have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Ben.